Joining me now is best-selling author of groundbreaking books, including his latest, The War on the West, Douglas Murray. We finally have a Kamala Harris interview. Today, CNN announced that she will be sitting down with Dana Bush, but the interview is not live and she will have Tim Walz joining her. Can we trust CNN to ask the tough questions and also not edit out the word salads we've come to expect from Harris?
We'll see. I think it's a fascinating thing that the Democrat nominee for president is actually going to deign to answer any questions from the press. Of course, Joe Biden has given fewer press conferences during his time in office than any president of recent decades. And it looked like Kamala Harris was trying to beat him to that record, if no other. The fact that she's doing with her running mate, Tim Walz, is extraordinarily interesting. And I'll tell you why. It's for this reason. We don't know any details of what Kamala Harris would like to do or intends to do if she gets the most important job in the world in November. We don't know what her fiscal policies are going to be, what her trade policies are going to be. We don't have any detail of what her border and immigration policies are going to be. And we don't have any knowledge at all of what her foreign policy is going to be. And the problem of Tim Walz or indeed Kamala Harris appearing with one without the other is that the other may say things which their running mate doesn't know or hasn't heard about, and that'll be because they're making it up on the fly. So if you were to have a sit down just with Tim Walz and say, now, look, do you agree with everything in Kamala Harris's foreign policy? He might have to reveal the fact that there is no foreign policy and might have to just make some stuff up. Then, of course, the press would say to her, if they ever get a chance to sit down with her again, and as I say, it seems to some extent unlikely that she does ever want to sit down with the media, they would say to her, well, Tim Walz said this about your foreign policy, and then she'd have to try to make something up on the fly as well. So it's very clever of them to decide to sit down together, because that way they can contradict each other, but less.
Well, there is also this transformation of Harris from a staunch leftist who had the most liberal voting record in the Senate to this tough law and order, pro-America figure. She's now claiming she doesn't support a fracking ban, despite in the past saying she'd bring one in on day one. She's backing away from electric vehicle mandates, and she's suddenly in favour of a border wall. Douglas should be wearing a MAGA hat soon.
It's very interesting. Of course, she wouldn't be the first politician to promise absolutely everything and say contradictory things in the run-up to trying to get everyone's vote in November. But the interesting thing about Kamala Harris is less the contradictions than what basic instinct she seems to have had about politics as she's expressed them in the past. This claim that she's now in favor of a border wall doesn't seem to me to be flip-flopping. It does seem to me to be absolutely typical election season pandering. But what's more interesting is what she said about the border wall any time before when she's been questioned about it. I just watched back earlier today one of her appearances on The View. How can I describe The View to non-Americans? It's like Britain's Loose Women, but less cerebral. It's like I mean, it's a very unfunny, funny, light daytime show. And so, of course, she presented herself to these fans of hers on the panel to ask her softball questions some years ago. And on that occasion, Kamala Harris said, in one of those jokes that no one else finds a joke, but she finds absolutely hysterical, that she says that she's very interested in and has dealt with international criminal bodies. And in going after those people, she found that the interesting thing about international groups is that they operate internationally. She found that absolutely hysterically funny and laughed like mad for ages. But the point is that she said in that interview, in that softball thing, she said the border wall wouldn't stop these international gangs, and then laughed manically. Well, the thing is that everything she tried to say in that interview was borders and walls don't matter, that they don't do anything. Well, if that is her view, and it seems to have been her view until yesterday, that seems to me to be a fairly settled view. She thinks that it doesn't really matter if you have a border or a border wall because of international things. So I don't really buy this late conversion to a wall at all.
No, I think they must have some sort of internal polling that is alarming them, particularly about the big issues like illegal immigration in the US. So, yeah, we're seeing this about face. Just quickly, I want to ask you about Donald Trump winning the endorsement of former Democrat Tulsi Gabbard, who famously ended Kamala's last run for president. She's also helping him prepare for the debate with Harris. How crucial is the upcoming debate, and who has more to lose?
Well, of course, if the polls, if some of the polls are correct and Kamala Harris is ahead, then the sense would be that she had more to lose. Tulsi Gabbard being brought on board by Trump is very interesting because, as I say, Kamala Harris has put herself forward for so few interviews and so little scrutiny, aside, as I say, from the geniuses of The View, that actually Tulsi Gabbard is particularly useful because she was running against Harris some years ago in the primaries. She's one of the few people who's actually been against Harris on a stage and demonstrated very effectively how to take Harris down by using what we used to call facts. Now, if Tulsi Gabbard can help Trump to find a way through, she's actually probably the best qualified person to do so, as I say, because she's one of the very few people who's actually gone up against Harris. Otherwise, I mean, nobody knows really what to do against her because just no one's had a chance.